RCK Productions.
What is up? Need for Speed Racers, it is I, your wheelman, Alex Cornnut. We're here with the A+ Meta Drag cars. I have got quarter mile and long track both here for you because there's a little bit different cars depending on what you're doing. The Volvo 242 is our first one. It does both. So buckle up, Buttercup. We've got a lot of builds to go through. Overall, I think I get 6 total. And this one does double duty, so it pulls in the short track and the long track. So definitely one you want to put in the garage. The engine that we're using on the Volvo 242 in the A+ class is the 4th engine over. It is the 7.2 liter V8, 390 brake horsepower when we start. For the parts, it's Elite Platinum, all of it, including a screw supercharger. So make sure you grab all the Elite parts there. Stock nitrous, because you don't need it in drag. Elite Platinum off-road suspension, stock brakes, and then Sport Bronze off-road tires. Elite Platinum clutch, that way you can get through all the gears and shift correctly. And then we are running the Sport Bronze 4-speed transmission. All the other transmissions take us way out of the class. You are going to run the Elite Platinum diff, that way you can get the most out of your handling slider. And for drag racing, do not worry about auxiliaries, they do nothing. Slide the slider all the way to the right, 80% drift, max that out. Steering sensitivity does not matter. Downforce all the way high. That is A+ 269, and that is the only place it'll fit in the class. Traction control off, drift entry doesn't matter. What that does is it gives you a rocket ship, which is the Volvo 242, the fridge. 1201 on your horsepower and 1308 on your foot-pounds of torque. This thing is super fast. It gets it done in both short and long track. Definitely build it, put it in your stable. Let's move on to the next car. I've already showed the 69 Camaro on the channel a couple of times in a different build video, but let's compile it all here. This is great for the short track. It gets it done. The engine that you're using is the last engine over. It is the 5.1 liter V8 hybrid. That's the Regera motor, and we go nuts with it. For the parts, it comes with Elite Platinum everything. You are going to swap over to the screw supercharger so you have the most pull. Nitrous doesn't matter. You're going to run Elite Platinum regular suspension, not off-road and not regular road, but just regular. No brakes, no tires. So you're going to run just iron basic tires. And then Elite Platinum clutch. Doesn't really matter too much because you are putting in the Sport Bronze 2-speed transmission. That is what gets it done on the short track. The longer tracks it gets walked because you don't have bump shift, but it'll get it done in the quarter mile stuff. You'll see that as soon as we touch it with a faster transmission, it takes it kind of to the top end of S-Class. Elite Platinum diff, you definitely want that. We can get the most out of that handling slider. Auxiliaries don't matter. Handling, slide the slider 55% drift, so just a little bit to the right. Steering sense, whatever. Downforce all the way low. That is the most grip we can get with downforce all the way low. That allows this car to accelerate. And even though it's only got 2 speeds, this thing slays in the short track. It's really quite good. Put it up against the Volvo. They're going to trade blows. I think the Volvo's a little faster, but at the end of the day, this one definitely gets it done. Traction control off, drift entry, whatever. Doesn't matter. You're not drifting. We're dragging. 194 for the top speed. It'll do a little bit over 200 with Redline Tech. 1558 on your horsepower and 1904 on your torque. That's why this thing gets it done with just 2 speeds. Alright, let's move on to the last short track car. Both the Both's Mustang and the 65 Mustang are pretty good at the short track. It was kind of a toss-up on which one was beat out both, so I'm going to show you the 65, and then I'll show you the Boss builds, and then you pick whatever one you want. They're really, really close, but I think the 65 beats out the Boss just because it just has a little more pull, but it really depends on your shifting abilities because both cars can be driven pretty fast. The engine that we use in the 65 Mustang is the 4.7 liter V8, 200 brake horsepower when we start. That's the first engine over, iron basic. For the parts, Elite Platinum, everything including a screw supercharger. Funny, we've seen this build before. And then no nitrous, Elite Platinum off-road suspension, no brakes, no tires. Keep those both iron basic. You are going to run the Elite Platinum clutch. That way you can get the most out of your shifts. And then you are running the Silver Pro 6-speed transmission. This is going to help with the bump shifts. That way you can get up into the next gear and downshift. I will link a video at the end of this one that explains that technique if you have no idea what I'm talking about. It also shows a crazy good S+ build for the Boss if you don't have that one yet. Elite Platinum diff, absolutely. That way you can get the most out of our handling slider because we're running it to the right. We are 55% drift, very similar to our last car I just showed you. Steering sensitivity doesn't matter. Downforce all the way low. Once again, it says 190 for its top speed. It'll do about 195 with redline tech. When you're bump shifting, it's okay. This one's a little harder to bump shift than some of the other cars. So honestly, it's why it's in third place. It's why it's tied with the boss. The Volvo and the Camaro both get it done better in the short track. This is kind of a tie for third place. So honestly, nothing crazy there. 1126 on the horsepower, 1082 on the torque. It's a pretty fast car, but like I say, it ties for third or fourth. So let me show you the last car, that boss Mustang. Big shout out to my man Tetsu. His channel is linked right there on screen, and there's also a card up here, and his channel's in the video description. He helps me with all of these. Go check him out, share some love. Sometimes he'll get a build out before I get a chance to, because I'm kind of going in a series and working on a sequence. And so when he stumbles across something pretty fast, you definitely want to be subbed to his channel, just like all the Cornnut crew guys. If they're putting out content, you want to be first on the scene. Definitely subscribe to their stuff. So anyway, Boss Mustang. It is quarter mile and long track. It does both. It's kind of like the Volvo. It's better on the long track because it's got a little less torque than what our 65 does. The engine that we use is the 7.0 liter V12, 820 brake horsepower when we start. That is the Super Gold engine. It is the 5th or 6th engine over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th engine over. For the parts, it is Elite Platinum induction and ECU, and then you're going to go Super Gold fuel system and exhaust. You are going to put in a Super Gold centrifugal supercharger, so that's probably why it's a little slower than the 65. It just doesn't pack the same amount of punch, but on the longer tracks it's got enough power and a little better top speed to pull you through. Nitrous doesn't matter. Elite Platinum off-road suspension, no brakes, and then Sport Bronze off-road tires. Elite Platinum clutch, that way you can get the most out of your shifting. Do a little bump shifting with this one. It does have the 6-speed transmission, and 6th gear is essentially a dead gear, so you can shift up and shift down and bump around and get it going. Like I say, video linked at the end if you don't know what I'm talking about. Elite Platinum diff, you want that way you can mess with the handling slider. Auxiliaries do not matter. Handling, slide the slider all the way to the right, 80% drift. It's the only way to get it to fit in the class. Steering sensitivity 2 clicks high for me, but it's drag racing, so it doesn't matter for you. Downforce all the way high. That is a 269. Everything less brings it well out of the class, and so definitely make sure you run that handling slider all the way to the right. Traction control off, drift entry, brake tap, I guess. 1118 on your horsepower, 783 on your torque. That is why this thing does well on the longer tracks, because it can get to a very high top speed and carry you through, but it's a little slower on the quarter mile stuff because it doesn't have quite the same amount of torque as the 65. So I would say this fits in more of the long track division than it does the short track, but it does fare at both. Alright, let me show you the next long track boy that I have. The last car in our lineup is the Pontiac Firebird. This thing slays on the long track. It's got the Bugatti engine and it just goes to infinity. So if you're going to do a long track build this one out. If you're going to do short track, build the 242. Those would be my 2 recommendations. All right, digging into the build, let me show you what we've got here. The engine that you're buying is, once again, like I said, the 8.0 liter W16 Bugatti engine. 1479 brake horsepower when we start. It's like the 7th engine over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th engine over. For the parts, it comes with Elite Platinum everything, so all you're doing is switching the forced induction to the screw supercharger. That way you have the most down low, and it helps it fit in the class. No nitrous, Elite Platinum off-road suspension, no brakes, no tires, iron basic for both of those. Elite Platinum clutch, that way you get the most with your shifts, and then make sure you have the Sport Bronze 5-speed transmission equipped. Every other transmission will take it out of the class, so it's very important you equip that one. Elite Platinum diff for sure, because we're sliding the handling slider way to the right. No auxiliaries ever. Handling, 75% drift, so you can do the last 2 clicks, but 75 is the lowest percentage we can get before it goes out of the class. And then downforce, I have it all the way low, thus giving us the ability to get the best acceleration out of this car. And on the long tracks in A+, this thing is a monster. It's a lot of fun to drive. I think you guys will really enjoy it. Traction control off, drift entry, brake tap, gas tap, doesn't matter, we're not drifting. 205 on the top speed, it'll do a little better than that. 1480 on your horsepower and 1225 on your torque. That is the A+ meta lineup for drag. To the best of my knowledge, these are the cars, these are the fast ones. I haven't tested or found anything faster. It doesn't mean they're not out there, it just means that I don't have my hands on them yet. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Give Tetsu a sub on his channel so you keep up to date with what he's got going on. And you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.